We absolutely love the Shokz bone conduction products. Can the Ikko ITG01 challenge any of them? We've got a few bones to pick. Goedendag, weer DHRME, driving home-ruined metaphors every day.
We've had multiple Shokz headphones on the channel before and we've been a fan. 2 fans. But the Ikko is new, so we had to check them out. The Shokz OpenRun Pro, AeroPax, and the OpenMove we have are made predominantly with plastic and rubber materials, whereas the Ikko has gone with aluminium alloy as well. This makes the Ikko really stand out with a more premium look and feel. Reminds me a little bit of the MacBook I was writing the script on. You'll know from our review of Shokz that they're super light and comfortable to wear. It may be made from metal and look bigger, still the Ikko only weighs 5 grams more. You notice the difference slightly if you keep switching between the Ikko and Shokz, but they're equally comfortable to wear and you get used to it quickly. We have the Ikko in gray here, but it comes in silver too. The speaker units on the Ikko have a nice finish. The neckband though can feel pretty sharp, which isn't a pleasant experience. The Shokz has a soft touch all around and is also more flexible than the Ikko. That's why we don't feel like we would break the Shokz if thrown into a bag the wrong way. And speaking of throwing into a bag, you literally get a flaccid carrying bag with the Ikko, which is fine against scratches, but won't do much to stop it from bending. The OpenMove is pretty much the same. The AeroPax has a kind of rubberized soft case. The Shokz OpenRun Pro is the most premium here with a hard shell carrying case. But considering how all the Shokz are built, we never found ourselves using any of the cases. So basically what I'm saying is, for the ones that are built shitty, you get a shitty case, but the ones that aren't as fragile, you get a good case. How ironic.
You know what's also ironic? Speaking about sound quality with bone conduction headphones, you don't buy these for their sound quality. A little refresher about bone conduction. Bone conduction works differently to headphones or earbuds. Sound is transmitted through vibrations on the bones of the jaw and the head directly into your ear. So having said that, the Ikko is fine for listening to music and it gets reasonably loud. Compared to the highest of the models from Shokz, the OpenRun Pro, the Ikko lacks bass and also doesn't get as loud. On a run, we were at about 75% volume with the Ikko, whereas on the OpenRun Pro, we would be around the 50% mark. Now, speaking of volume, unfortunately, you do not get volume controls on the Ikko, whereas you do on all the Shokz models. And this is very important to us. The reason is simple. We love using bone conduction headphones for workouts, and there's nothing more annoying than having to grab your phone or use your smartwatch to adjust volume instead of on the device itself. Let's still talk about the dust and water resistance, because workouts are a big part of why you'd buy something like this. Now on the Ikko, you get IPX6, pretty decent water resistance, versus IP55 on most of the Shokz models, except on the AeroPax, where you get an IP67 rating. Now, IPX6 is still very good water resistance. So all of these headphones cover your fluid needs. But if you want to get your hands and ears a bit icky, then don't get the Ikko because it has no dust resistance rating. But if you can't resist working from home, see what I did there? You're gonna have a lot of phone calls to deal with. So here are some popsicles, icicles, and testicles.
Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle. Pop, pop, popsicle. Test, test, testing. 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle. Test, test, testing. 1, 2, 3. We just compared the Ikko to the OpenRun Pro to give you guys an idea. Now, neither are great in windy conditions, so don't expect the other person on that call to stay on the call. In both quiet and noisy conditions, the Shokz outperforms in volume and clarity. What you don't hear in the test, but what we did experience in real life testing, is that the Shokz are way more reliable for phone calls. Meaning that on the Ikko, we've had times that the other person on the call started hearing an echo and even said we sounded like we were underwater. Bottom line, don't depend on the Ikko for calls. Now, none of the Shokz nor the Ikko offer a dedicated mute button on device. But like we said earlier, the Shokz can control volume. Very handy, but not as handy as connecting a single headset to multiple devices when you're working from home. The two higher end Shokz models support it and it works very well. Ikko and the OpenMove unfortunately don't, so you're stuck to a single device at any one time. The OpenRun Pro is the only device here that comes with an app. It's rather bare bones, allowing you to change between two EQ presets and manage connections to paired devices. A weird thing about connectivity with the Ikko is that you can pair each side on its own if you like. So you can have only the left side or only the right. This makes sense when you have earbuds in, since you want to be aware of your surroundings. But this is already the case with bone conduction headphones. Anyway, if you still decide to use them for work, which by the way make total sense just because of how comfortable they are, will they last you the whole day? Well, that all depends on the kind of work-life balance you have. If you're in Europe like we are, then you'll be fine. The OpenRun Pro packs a whopping 10 hours on a single charge, and you can juice it back up to full in 1 hour. The AeroPax gets you 8 hours and needs 2 hours to charge to full. A downside to both is that they use a proprietary magnetic charger. The interesting comparison here is with the OpenMove. You get just USB Type-C charging and a max charge of 6 hours, whereas the Ikko is slightly better at 6.5 hours of battery life. Unfortunately, the Ikko also comes with a proprietary magnetic charger, and it has two ends which need to connect to each earpiece, and it will take 2 hours to fully charge it. We'll admit it's not the best implementation. But, a big but, they've included a charging dock with USB Type-C. It's much easier to use than the wired charger and looks pretty damn cool. And there's one more thing, the dock can be used as a power bank since it can hold enough charge for the Ikko to be charged back up 1.5 times. Now that's something that pleasantly surprised us.
A few things that unpleasantly surprised us about the Ikko were, you hear a bit of white noise when no audio is playing and you're in a quiet environment. And like we said, you can pair either earpiece separately, which means you need to keep both buttons pushed in when turning them on if you want to pair both earpieces at the same time. I guess this is kind of a dual device implementation. To top off that inconvenience, you also have an unusually long wait to turn on or off the device. Now, $99 for the Ikko and a range of $80 to $180 for the Shokz. What should you get? Well, if your budget is around $100, then the Ikko is not bad as a workout device with a premium design and a charging dock power bank. This also compares closely to the nearest priced Shokz product, the OpenMove. But the AeroPax and OpenRun Pro are so far ahead that the Ikko is beat in almost every other category. So if you can scrape together those extra bucks, those two models make a lot of sense. Heck, even at a comparable price, the OpenMove does one-up the Ikko on a number of fronts, including having volume controls and a more stable pairing experience. So that's it guys. For the latest prices, always check the links in our description. We earn a small commission if you use those links, but they never cost you anything extra. And as always, a special thanks to our patrons and YouTube members. You've been pleasantly shocked and we've been DHRME. Namaste. Except the AeroPax. Where is it? It just fell down.